Hey everyone, Israel is currently in a war against the terror organization Hamas, and we know how hard it can be to keep up with all the news. So if you haven't had the time to stay on top of the latest developments out of Israel, we're here for you. I'm Ladar Gavelazi, and this is ILTV's Weekly Review. Two Israeli civilians, a husband and wife, Neil and Noah Baranes, were killed during a Hezbollah rocket barrage fired at the Golan Heights. They leave behind 3 children. The attack followed the alleged Israeli strike on the Damascus-Beirut highway that killed a key Hezbollah operative. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz reports.
The victims of the Hezbollah barrage on the Golan were 2 Israeli civilians. The husband and wife were driving past the Nafah junction and were struck amid the barrage of 40 rockets that Hezbollah claims were targeting a nearby army base. The near-daily attacks by Hezbollah have now resulted in 12 Israeli civilian deaths, as well as the deaths of 16 IDF soldiers and reservists. Hezbollah's attack follows the targeted killing of a former personal bodyguard of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. Yasser Karnabash was killed in a strike on the Beirut-Damascus highway. Karnabash was responsible for transporting military personnel and weapons between Lebanon and Syria. His death brings the terror group's toll amid the war in Gaza to at least 364. Meanwhile, Hezbollah has released detailed drone footage of Israeli military bases in the Golan Heights. Several weeks ago, Hezbollah published a similar video of Israeli sites in the Haifa area. The IDF has not yet commented on the footage. It's unclear when the video was made.
And residents of northern Israel have seen near-daily missile attacks for over 9 months. Some 80,000 Israelis remain displaced, unable to return to their homes, and there is no end in sight. Joining us now to discuss the situation in the north is Eliyahu Berkovitz, a resident of Katzrin in the Golan Heights, and Yaakov Selavan, deputy head of the Golan Regional Council. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Eliyahu, let's start with you. Can you share with us what it's been like for you, for your family, these past few months?
Well, in the beginning, it was not very intense here. Most of the focus was on the south. But as time goes on, there's more and more rockets falling, more rockets and closer. Some have fallen inside the city. Also, we don't get warnings. The alarm sounds at the same time as the rockets fall. It's been a lot of fires. Most of the fields around the city is burned. And I was in the Army, but being in my house with my family while rockets are falling is a very different experience.
It's really an unimaginable reality, which is people are not necessarily aware of just how much rocket attacks are hitting northern Israel. Now, Yaakov, I want to turn to you. 2 people were just murdered, a husband and a wife, leaving behind 3 children. You know, as deputy head of the regional council, I mean, do you see a solution in sight?
Unfortunately, the answer right now, by the way the Israeli government and the army are operating, the answer is no. I think the big question we need to ask ourselves is if tomorrow a deal is signed between Hezbollah to Israel, will the 80,000 residents of the Galilee, which are evacuated from their homes, come back and feel safe? And unfortunately, the answer is no, which means right now, people here don't feel secure. People here don't trust the systems enough that they feel, okay, a deal can be reliable. And therefore, unfortunately, we're right now in the fog. You know, we're in a fog of an uncertainty. We don't know where this thing is going to. And every time we speak with decision makers, from the prime minister to generals in the army, we keep on asking, what's the end game? What do you want to achieve here in the north?
And Eliyahu, you know, you're hearing this after 9 months of almost daily rocket fire. I mean, has the thought of leaving the area, relocating, has it crossed your mind?
Well, when the attack after October 7th, my wife and I discussed it. I mean, we're talking about our children, and we have American citizenship. We were even thinking about going back to the States. We feel safer here than we would as Jews in the United States. I was feeling very safe in the Golan. The attacks are getting stronger, and to be honest, I would be thinking about sending my wife and kids to friends somewhere else. This is my home. I've been living here 10 years. Moving, I just don't even want to think about it. Running away, I don't want to think about it. And I think most of the residents of Katsrin were very strong together. There's a very strong feeling of togetherness. We're in this together. Together we can win.
And Yaakov, you're hearing from Eliyahu, what he and his family are going through. You and your family are sharing this same reality. You were just about to say something. Go ahead.
I want to add on to what Eliyahu said. Up to now, we haven't heard of anyone who has left. And in our regional council, we had no request of people who want to leave. Life here is not easy in the last 9 months. However, we understand, and I say we, the whole Golan community, including Katsrin, we understand that we have a purpose. We are Israel's frontier. We are facing Syria and Lebanon, and we understand that the enemy is not just trying to fight the Israeli army. They're fighting us, the people. They want to take apart our communities. They want to disconnect us from our land, and we will not give them this pleasure. Every day that we wake up and there's 80,000 people evacuated from their homes in the Galilee, it is a strategic and moral failure. And we in the Golan will not allow this to happen to us. And we demanded the decision makers and the army to defend us so Eliyahu and his family and my family can live here safely and not be worried like we are in these rough days.
Mm-hmm.
Also, ultimately, as Jews, we've got nowhere else to go.
An important point. And, Yaakov, I do want to turn to you again. You mentioned that people don't feel safe currently. What do you think needs to be done? What does Israel need to do now to ensure that people can return home, can restore that sense of security and safety in their lives?
I think it all, first of all, starts with leadership. Last night, when I went to Kibbutz Ortal, where we lost our two dear residents, Noah and Nir, there wasn't that much that I was able to do, but the fact that I was there with them, in their pains, in their tears, hugging them, embracing them, it meant the world for them. And that's the job of leadership, to be there when it's hard. And so the first thing that people need to feel that the government is here with them. The government is present. It starts with supporting different programs for community resilience. It starts, I'm standing here, behind me is a bomb shelter, but we are lacking. There are thousands of homes in the Golan without bomb shelters, and we need the government to get involved here. Aside from that, I began with saying that if tomorrow there is a deal, will people come back to their homes? And the answer is no. That's because we understand that Hezbollah hasn't paid a heavy price, not enough. Something needs to happen that Hezbollah understands that you don't mess with us. And it can't be that my daughter is scared to go to kindergarten, and in Lebanon, kids are living normally. It's something we can't accept.
Mm-hmm. And Eliyahu, do you share this feeling? Do you share this assessment?
Absolutely. Even though I will say that since October 7th, I wouldn't say we've been under constant rocket attack, but I've been listening all day, every day, 7 days a week. The Israeli Air Force is overhead working. And I've seen the preparations up here from the IDF. We're about to get into a different stage where things are going to get very, very hard, and we have to stay together on this. We have to stay strong. And I totally agree. This is our home. We have to stay here. We have to be together, and we have to show the enemy this is our homeland. We're going to be here.
Absolutely. All right.
Right now, there's a security zone. Yeah, sorry. Right now, there's a security zone on Israeli soil. So what we demand in order to make sure that people can come back to their homes, the security zone needs to be on the other side. The enemy needs to pay a price.
All right. Well, Yaakov and Eliyahu, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
We hope for better days. We hope to host you here for cherry picking and the good stuff that Golan has to offer on regular days.
And you're all invited to stop by for coffee.
Absolutely. We'll hope for quieter days. Thank you both.
The Israeli negotiating team is heading to Doha ahead of key high-level mediation aimed at reaching an elusive hostage for ceasefire agreement. Hamas is warning that the talks may be doomed before they begin. Shin Bet Chief Ronen Bar is heading from border security talks in Egypt to Qatar for renewed working meetings on the hostage for ceasefire deal with senior officials, including CIA Director William Burns. As the talks get set to renew, the family of hostage Daniela Gilboa today released a brief propaganda video of her shot by Hamas that depicts the captive, calling for the government to do more to secure her release.
I would just tell you that there has been some back and forth. As you know, we have a team in Cairo right now that includes Brett McGurk and the director of the CIA. They're meeting with their Egyptian, Israeli, and Jordanian counterparts, and there'll be follow-on discussions after that over the next few days.
Barr's talks in Cairo focused on plans to prevent Hamas from smuggling weapons from Egypt after the IDF eventually withdraws from the Philadelphia route it currently holds along the border. The discussions reportedly covered the construction of an underground barrier between the Gaza Strip and Egypt to prevent the smuggling of goods into the Strip. Even before the renewal of hostage for ceasefire talks, Hamas is warning that the mediation efforts could collapse due to actions by Prime Minister Netanyahu and the IDF. Hamas was referring to Netanyahu's list of conditions issued ahead of the talks and the IDF offensive currently underway in Gaza City. The White House said it was heavily invested in an agreement.
Look, we've been working this very, very hard, and there are still some gaps that remain in the two sides and the positions. But we wouldn't have sent a team over there if we didn't think that we had a shot here, and we're going to take every shot we can to see if we can't get this ceasefire deal in place.
And now for a special feature, Economy Minister Near Barkat and ILTV Editor-in-Chief Maayan Hoffman sat down yesterday for an exclusive and wide-ranging interview. The full interview can be found on our YouTube page. Just scan the QR code on the corner of the screen that will appear during the feature. And now, over to Maayan. Let's give a listen.
Welcome to this special edition of ILTV News. I'm Maayan Hoffman, Editor-in-Chief, and today we're going to be doing an interview with Economy Minister Near Barkat. Come along and let's hear what he has to say. So, Minister Barkat, thank you so much for meeting with us today.
Thank you.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is scheduled to speak in Congress later this month. What are the administration's main goals for this address, and how do you respond to the criticism that this might become an overly partisan visit where only Republicans are sitting in the room?
Well, first of all, it's a good opportunity to thank the President of the United States and the U.S. government and the U.S. people for the strong support of Israel and the challenges we have. I think that we must realize that Israel should not be involved in internal American affairs, and the U.S. should not be involved in Israeli internal affairs. It's for the health of the relationship.
But Minister Barkat, are we winning this war? I mean, I know that we've had some tactical wins, and you're talking about 15,000 terrorists down. The original goals of the war were to demolish Hamas, that they should no longer exist. We've sort of pulled back from that goal. The hostages are still not home, that we'll talk about the potential deal on the table. Is this a war that Israel effectively is victorious, going to be victorious in?
Let me put it in a different way. We have no choice. The jihadists of Hamas, and by the way, they're not the only ones in our region, headed the proxies in Hezbollah and other places like the Houthis in Yemen and in Syria. There's many terrorist groups, all funded by Qatar and Iran. Okay, their goal is that October 7th is just the first incident. They claim their charter is to do it again and again and again. So us entering Gaza and eliminating Hamas off the face of the earth is not just because what happened on October 7th. It's to eliminate the next one. The Israeli army has no choice but to enter Gaza, dismantle the terror infrastructure. One more important, very important point. What Hamas did when Israel left Gaza 18 years ago, they significantly funded everything to prepare for the next war. There's huge fingerprints of Iran in Hamas and what they've done, okay? And they're focusing on how to kill Israelis. Iran is not only threatening Israel. Iran is also threatening the Saudis and the Emiratis and peace-seeking moderate Arab states, Sunni moderate Arab states. The goal has to be to create an alliance, NATO equivalent, if you like, focusing on the threat of Iran. The countries are threatened by Iran. Strategically, Iran must understand that they're not going to get away with it. They're using their proxy strategies, their nuclear strategy. They want to create a nuclear bomb in order to use it. They've said so. I believe them. And we must collaborate together with our friends around the world to make sure Iran does not get their way.
Why haven't we gotten them home yet then? I mean, 9 months into this war, as you said, terrible conditions. The IDF and the government has come out and said probably at least close to half of them are already dead. Why didn't we go in a week later and get them? Why have we not pushed harder? Why didn't we stop the war to get them back?
We're talking about psychopaths that have come into Israel, created the worst atrocities that we've ever seen since the Holocaust. Raped, killed, took people to... It's totally crazy what they've done. And negotiating with psychopaths that don't give any value to life. They don't treat the hostages like we see them, as people, as friends, as family. They see them as, I don't know, elements to negotiate with Israel and get what they want. And so dealing with psychopaths is very challenging in this world. And that's where we must put all the pressure on the psychopaths, not on Israel as a democracy that wants to get our people back.
Hopefully, at some point, we will have them home. We will have this war end in some capacity, hopefully victorious.
We have no choice.
We have no choice, as you said. So what does it look like in Gaza the day after?
The Gazan people, like the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, have to decide, do they want to look like Gaza or Dubai? The people in Gaza have to decide, do they want to continue creating tunnels and preparing for the next jihad, or do they want to collaborate and live side by side to Israel? As long as they don't recognize Israel, any penny given to them, they will build more tunnels to kill us. Therefore, they must not get any capabilities to redo what they've done in the last 18 years. If they recognize the state of Israel and they want to collaborate and have peace with us, we'll find a way to live side by side in a way that eventually could enable them to focus on their economy. But it's not going to happen with Hamas. The Palestinian Authority also has to decide, do they want to peacefully live with Israel, or do they want to, as I say, a two-state for the benefit of eliminating Israel off the map?
Palestinian workers, we haven't been letting them into the country. That's still effectively in place, if I understand correctly. So what's happening with our construction industry, real estate, as a result of this?
I'm a big believer in foreign employees, mainly from peaceful countries. We had a shortage of 70,000 foreign employees before October 7th. And just lately, the government approved bringing 130,000 foreign employees, out of which 60,000 already arrived. We mainly are changing and we shifted the way we work from G to G, from government to government, to B to B, business to business.
Our economy, nonetheless, as you mentioned, is struggling. We have gone through 9 months of this. We've invested a huge amount in running this war, necessary, but nonetheless investments. It was just yesterday, there was a report on we're reducing expenditures to education, to health. I mean, how much longer can we go, and what is going to be the long-term impact on our economy from all of this?
I'm very optimistic as to Israel's economy. I know that throughout the wars, there's always a dip. Naturally, you have reservists go to war, and there's the cost of the war. But after every round of violence in our region, there's a huge spike.
Well, Minister Barkat, thank you so much for answering all these questions.
Well, a political crisis is underway in the Netanyahu coalition. Political pundits are saying that the government is in danger of collapse, with key partners issuing threats that could force new elections. The political crisis has been simmering in recent weeks over the ultra-Orthodox draft, the hostage prisoner deal, and a host of larger and smaller issues. The crisis boiled over when National Security Minister Ben Gvir announced his refusal to vote with the government unless he gets a seat on the so-called war cabinet. The government was forced to pull a bill scheduled to be voted on that would increase funding for religious councils. This following threats from Ben Gvir's far-right Otzma Yehudit party that it would not support the bill. The Shas party, led by Aryeh Deri, had been pushing for the bill and walked out of the Knesset in protest. The two have been trading angry accusations. Finance Minister Smotrich, who heads the right-wing religious Zionists, threatened to leave the government if Israel approves the hostage for ceasefire deal being negotiated later this week in Doha. He had this message.
אזרחי ישראל, זאת התמונה שנקבל בעזה אם חס וחלילה נחתום על העסקה המופקרת. העסקה הזאת היא תבוסה והשפלה למדינת ישראל והיא ניצחון של סינואר. היא תגזור למוות את דינם של 90 חטופות וחטופים שאינם חלק מהעסקה ותביא חלילה לאלפי נרצחים שימותו בטבח הבא של סינואר ושל המחבלים הנוספים מתוך המאות שהשתחררו. אדוני ראש הממשלה, זה לא הניצחון המוחלט שהבטחת לכל אורך חודשי המלחמה, זה הכישלון המוחלט. לא נהיה חלק מעסקה של כניעה לחמאס.
Opposition leader Yair Lapid offered the prime minister a safety net on the potential hostage deal.
יש עסקת חטופים על השולחן. זה לא נכון שנתניהו צריך לבחור בין עסקת החטופים להמשך הכהונה שלו כראש ממשלה. הבטחתי לו רשת ביטחון ואני אעמוד בהבטחה הזו. זה לא נכון שהוא צריך לבחור בין חיי החטופים לבין הממשלה. שיעשה את העסקה, אם סמוטריץ' ובן גביר יפרשו, הוא יקבל רשת ביטחון. זו לא אמירה קלה, זו לא החלטה קלה. נתניהו הוא ראש ממשלה גרוע, כושל, והוא אשם באסון ה-7 באוקטובר, אבל הדבר הכי חשוב הוא להחזיר את החטופים הביתה.
The French elections were held yesterday for their split parliamentary elections. The results, a surprise far-left victory, something which has concerned many. Immediately following the election results, riots broke out in France, instigated by the far left. Concerns of rising anti-Semitism also continue to plague the Jewish community in France. Let's take a look at what happened in the elections.
The first round of French parliamentary elections saw a victory for the far-right party, National Rally, of Marine Le Pen, a party with known anti-Semitic roots. But the second round saw a reversal, with a victory for the radical left with 178 seats, due to the political maneuvering of the centrist coalition of Macron, which allowed more radical candidates to run in districts the left was poised to lose. Instead, there are now elected officials who have security risk designation from the state itself. The far-left party, the New Popular Front, is also dealing with accusations of anti-Semitism today. In his victory speech, the most prominent far-left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, even spoke about his intent to recognize a Palestinian state. Mélenchon has been accused of peddling anti-Semitic stereotypes and has even called the skyrocketing anti-Semitism in France residual. The Jewish community has reported feeling betrayed by both the left and right, though some Jewish leaders called on the community to vote for Le Pen, despite the party's disturbing anti-Semitic history, because Le Pen is strongly pro-Israel. In response to the election results, current Prime Minister of France, who also happens to be Jewish, Gabriel Attal, submitted his resignation. The surprise victory of the far left still did not reach a strong majority in parliament, meaning the coalition could prove difficult as three leading political factions have radically different views.
For more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at ILTV.tv or download the ILTV Plus app. That's it for ILTV's weekly review. Stay safe and see you next week.